Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Chuck Musselwhite, and this channel is all about giving you practical advice to live your daily life for Jesus Christ. And so today I'm going to talk about something that we have emphasized to our children. I have 4 children, ages 21 all the way down to 16 at the taping of this. One thing that we've always emphasized with our children is the importance of hard work, and specifically in the realm of actually working and having a job. All of our children have gotten jobs pretty quickly after they've turned 16, just because we know the importance of that. And we don't look at the importance maybe as some people do. It has nothing to do with them having money in their own pocket, although, we make them spend money on things that they want. We don't purchase everything for them. And also too, it's not about building a resume for future employment or whatever they want to do. Those two things never ever entered our mind. The reason that we really emphasize them getting a job is because it teaches so many things at such a young age. And this happened even before they turned 16 and got a job. We had them do chores from a very, very early age at the house. And it's funny, we did it just because that's kind of how we were raised. And the fact is that, when you have a family of 6, everybody's got to pull their part. There's a lot of things going on. But also too, we just understand the principle of responsibility. And, it's funny, in the last couple of years, there's been all these studies coming back that, children who do chores at home actually are better prepared for society when they become adults. Now, that's kind of like a Captain Obvious thing, but social scientists figured out they need to do studies about these things, and they're just kind of proving what parents have been doing for generations. But sadly, that's kind of slipping off. We know lots of people who they don't make their kids do any chores, don't do anything. The parents do everything for them, or they have people come in and do things, and that's their prerogative. But that's something that we valued, because the fact is that kids are going to be working the rest of their life, and they need to have the skills. But not only just the skills on how to work hard, but the ability to interact with people. And, my daughter works at a pizza place. She's been working there the last 4 years, and workers have come and go, and she's always amazed at some of these workers. Like they don't talk to people, they don't talk to their employees, their coworkers, they don't talk to the customers, and they're just outright resistant about doing certain things. And that's just that's trained at home, and so you have to instill that in there. And so that's the main reason that we have our children get jobs, because the fact is that it teaches life lessons that we can't teach at home. You become comfortable and used to the people that are around your home, or even at your school, and you need to come in encounter with people who aren't like you, who you don't see very often, and you have to learn how to treat them with respect and dignity and politeness. And that comes from working a job maybe at a food place or some customer service place, and so we've really encouraged our children to do that. And it's really kind of the whole theme of today's podcast or today's video, and that is simply the importance of work ethic and attitude. That is in far short supply today. I don't know how many business owners I've talked to where they're desperate for employees, and they have interviews set up with people, and the people just don't even show up. Or they take the interview, they get the job, they work until their first paycheck, and then they quit. Or they work a couple of days and they're like, I don't want to do this, and they bail. And it just shows you that we have a crisis in our society, because the fact is that people don't have the work ethic and the right attitude when not just in the workplace, but the workplace manifests it's the most. And it's honestly where we'll spend most of our waking hours as adults. And so, but the fact is that what we're trying to teach our young people, our children, is the importance of work ethic and attitude. And so, we always tell them, several ways that they can set themselves apart on their job. The first is just to show up, that seems obvious, but it's not so much anymore. But also too, we tell them the importance of timeliness, that you're on time. You don't want to be that employee that's always showing up or always wanting to leave early. The fact is that you committed to work that job. And so you committed to work the hours that they've told you to work. And so you show up at the time that they tell you there. You show up 5-10 minutes early, so you can be ready to work when it's time. And you're there all the way through. And you do it with the right attitude. And what's amazing is that that actually really sets you apart. But also other ways that you set you apart in the job is that you do the work that you're giving to do. You do it with the right attitude, and you have a respect for authority and your coworkers and your customers. But at the same time, you have a respect for yourself. And when you have those things, it's amazing how much you set yourself apart. There's so much insecurity in the world. I think that's a real reason why you don't see very good workers nowadays. It's just people are just so afraid of looking stupid, that they don't do anything. And what they don't realize is by not doing anything, they actually look more stupid than doing something and failing. But yet that's what society has told us nowadays is like, you just don't want to look stupid. And so people freeze. But I also think people are just selfish. And the fact is when somebody's giving, they're kind and they're considerate of other people, that really sets themselves apart. My son just got a job at Home Depot, and he was originally going to get hired as a shopping cart guy, and so he was going to be out in the parking lot bringing all the shopping carts in, all that kind of stuff. And one of the managers happened to know my son because her son and Toby played on the same basketball team, and she told the hiring manager, like, oh no, he has too good of a personality. Don't put him out in the parking lot. Put him in a department. And so the very first day he gets there, he finds out he's in the plumbing department, which is one of the hardest, if not the hardest department in all of Home Depot. And if you've ever been to Home Depot and seen their plumbing department, it's like aisles and aisles of just little bits and pieces, and so, but he dove in. And in the first month that he worked there, they have these things called Bravos at Home Depot, and he got 4 Bravos, some from his manager, some from his coworkers, and that's a big deal. And many of the managers commented about the fact that they've had very few employees actually start out the way he has, and it's because he has a great attitude. He's willing to try, and what's interesting is that because in plumbing he's never done a thing of plumbing in his whole life. Maybe he's helped me once in a while with the sprinklers or something like that, and I don't know much of plumbing. I mean, that's the one trade I'm like, okay, call, and you always have to have a plumber guy. He's just diving in, and when customers come and like, hey, I'd help with this, and he's like, well, I can't tell you how to do it, but I can tell you where to find it. And he is able to lead them into the right place, and just gives great customer service. And that has made his managers notice, that has made his coworkers, I believe, more open to him, because the fact is that he's not being lazy and they're not having to cover for him, and he's there to help them. He's telling me the other day that he just spent like 3 hours moving pipe. They had to refill all of the pipe, and so it was anywhere from steel pipe, conduit, all the way up to PVC, ABS, all that kind of stuff. And so he spent 3 hours with his coworker just moving pipe and refilling all the racks that had been depleted. And he was tired. You could tell when he came home. He was a little grouchy, and he went to bed pretty quickly. But he really impressed his coworker, where busted his butt. And that really goes a long way. And so as parents, the thing I want to encourage you guys is that you really need to emphasize things like work ethic and attitude. Grades, yeah, they're great, but they only take you so far. Accolades that you get at school, you know what? Nobody in the workplace cares about those things. They're great rewards for parents who put in the hard work. But the fact is that there's a lot of kids who, they're getting out of high school, they're getting out of college, and they have no idea how to work an 8-hour job. And it's because the fact is they haven't been asked to even work a 4-hour job up until this point. And what's even worse is that, when they do get a job and their boss gets on their case for doing something wrong, they've never experienced that in their whole life, and they absolutely crumble. And I can't tell you how many stories I've read in national newspapers or other places where, parents are intervening for their kids in the workplace. And man, there's no bigger death knell than having your mama call your boss and complain about him being too hard on her child. And that's just, man, and that's the antithesis of what I'm talking about. And so the thing I want to encourage parents is like teach your kids how to work hard. Make them start with chores around the house. Have them help with projects. Have them get a job. And you know what? Because the fact is that they are full of energy and they can squeeze it in. And it's much better than them sitting on their butts playing video games or death scrolling on their phones on TikTok or Instagram. And it does really a lot for their self-esteem. They may have it hard at first, but after a while, once they kind of learn it, they're gonna get it. And a lot of bosses are very understanding and patient with the younger generation nowadays. And so we need to put aside our fears. But the fact is that teach them also not only about working hard, but their attitude determines everything. And they need to go in with a good attitude. I was outside of a Panera one day. And I just happened to be, I think I was waiting for my wife to pick me up or something like that. I just so happened to be standing by a car, and the car pulled up while I was standing there, and there was a woman who ended up being the mom and a grown man, like in his mid-20s, sitting in the passenger seat. And they were arguing, and they were arguing for quite a while. And then eventually the guy got out of the car and with his apron and put it on and walked in to work at Panera. And nothing against Panera, but the fact is I was laughing, one, that this woman had to drive a mid-20s person to work. Second of all, she's arguing about him. The fact is he didn't want to go to work. I mean, it became evident through the whole thing. And that he threw a temper tantrum, like getting out of the car and walking into work. And it's just like, dude, you're 25 years old, and just like his mom was forcing him to go to work, and we, as parents, we do not want to be in that position. We do not want our children to not only be dependent upon us, but resistant to actually providing for themselves and becoming independent. And that's why I always say, our goal as parents is to raise independent children who contribute to society. Because the fact is that that's what their role is. Once they become adults, their job is to become independent, not to keep relying upon us as parents, but also to contribute. They're to get married, they're to have children, they're to be involved in the community, they're to do whatever God calls them to do. And so I just want to challenge you guys as parents mainly. That's probably who I want to most talk to. Teach your children how to have a good work ethic and a good attitude. And when they do, it will become so apparent. They will stick out so far in their job, because the fact is that that's not the norm today. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.